All right. Another big question. This kind of ties to things that we hear a lot because when we say we're against surrogacy or donor conception because children have a right to their biological mother and father, a lot of people, including sometimes folks who are adopted or adoptive parents, will take it and hear it like we are saying it's bad to adopt or, that you missed something. You missed out on something if you're adopted, which you can touch on. So, what's Them Before Us's take on adoption? Why is it different? What's that elevator answer for why it's completely different in our view from surrogacy and buying sperm or buying eggs?
First, we need to honestly recognize that both of these scenarios, the child created through third-party reproduction or surrogacy and the child adopted, have experienced loss. Both of those processes begin with loss. The child loses one or both of their genetic parents or their birth parent so that they can be raised by unrelated adults. That's the similarity. And that's where the similarities end. Right? That's really it. Because now the big difference is the kids that are created through a third party, somebody else's egg, sperm, or womb, they're being raised by the adults who wanted it that way. They wanted the biological parent or the genetic parent to be gone or cut out of the child's life. The adoptive child is being raised by the adult who is seeking to mend the loss that the child experienced. So dispositionally, the adoptive parents are in a better position to process with the child, help them work through their grief and their mourning. But then we also will say, like, this is a redemptive situation. Adoption is redemptive. But then I, as a mom, adoptive mom, will say, I can't fully compensate for everything my child has lost. So I'm not going to pretend like adoption fixed everything. You can have something be redemptive without necessarily fixing everything and solving all the problems. And we talk about there are increased struggles that adopted children face as it relates to their identity, as it relates to substance abuse challenges in the future. We know that children tend to struggle more in school if they're adopted. We know that they have more externalizing disorders. None of that means that they are doomed, that they're never going to thrive, they're never going to be successful, but it does mean they have additional hurdles. And that's why we need to be really careful to not be casual about somebody saying, oh, I have an unplanned pregnancy, I'm just going to, adopt my child out. Our answer at Them Before Us is, the proper response to an unplanned pregnancy is not adoption. It's parenting. You need to parent the child that you made. And we pray that the woman will do that with the man who also made the baby, that both the mother and father need to reorient their life around the child so the child doesn't lose their life or their mom or dad as a result. Now, when I go talk, like I was at Hillsdale College last month, and I was this month because it's still October, last month because it just stopped being October. Okay. And I'll talk about adoption, knowing that there's a lot of people in the audience that are probably adopted, and there always are. So they come up and they always come and talk to me. I'm adopted. My sisters are adopted. And I always say, did I represent you accurately? That this was redemptive, that this is a process that was ordered around what you needed more than your parents wanted, but that there have been some additional struggles as it relates to maybe identity formation. And so far, all of the adopted kids have said, yeah, that's right. That's where I'm at. Not every adoptive parent has said that. I've actually found that the adoptive parents tend to be a little more reactive and defensive than the adopted children are. And so I think that that's an area where adoptive parents can learn. Nobody's criticizing you. Nobody's saying that you're a bad mother or father because your child experienced these losses. It's actually better for your child to just say, I recognize that there's some things that I'm not going to be able to compensate for. I'm sorry for what you experienced. Maybe you are curious about your birth mom. I'll think about that with you and try to figure out if there's ways where we can reconnect with her if you want and if it's age appropriate. So adoption is challenging, especially because we do understand that when it is done in a child-centric way as a last resort, it can be very, very good. But we never want to paper over the losses for the child because that doesn't do them any favors.
It's interesting because this is another scenario where people will try to throw back something at us like, oh, well, you're saying kids who got adopted lost something too then. And we're like, yes. Or you're saying straight couples shouldn't get to use surrogacy, right? And we're like, yes, that's what we're saying. Or the example of, oh, you want women to have to bear the consequences of having sex outside of marriage and have to bear the child and pay for, well, then why don't you expect the man to do it? And it's like, Yes, we agree. That is also what we want. You've seen those tweets, right? Where people are like, if we could only come up with a way where people committed to each other for life, just the two of them, before they had sex, before they produced children, and then the man committed to raising the children with the woman and all that stuff. And we were like, yeah, it was invented. It's called marriage. You guys are ruining it. We're trying to get back to it. But we agree with people end up kind of agreeing with us. So they try to do that gotcha. And like you said, this is a seamless cloth because we're always trying to think about the children. And we can always say, yep, you're right. It is going to be consistent across the board for us.
Yeah, I love those memes. And I think like oh, she can't walk away from the pregnancy, then neither can he. Bam. Oh, gay couples can't, use surrogacy, then neither can the rich celebrities. Boom. And then there's that meme where it's like, your terms are acceptable. Like, yeah, that's exactly right. We don't think that anybody, single, married, gay, straight, fertile, or infertile, should violate the rights of children. We think that all adults, single, married, gay, straight, fertile, and infertile, should reorient their life so that children don't have to lose their life or their mother and father.